Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to view Power Rangers Dino Fury Season 2, Episodes 1 through 5. So, thank you anybody who was to go on and watch the heck out of that last Dino Fury review I did. Because, man, you go on and just kind of find out, like, kind of lopsided reviews and stuff like that, where people watch the heck out of certain things and then they don't watch others, because a lot of times, like, people like crossover episodes, or people are just like, why did he even freaking pick this one? This is a dumb episode. But maybe there was also something in there that was like, ooh, but I liked this though, or ooh, I liked this episode, and so on and so forth, and want to get like the thoughts about it, maybe. So, with that said, let's get into these episodes, because there's 5 of them again. So, with that said, I feel like there's good bits and pieces that I did like here, but overall, these episodes were very hard to sell me on. Specifically, here's case in point. So, I'll talk a little bit about the festival episode. So, we ended up getting the Dino Chucks, which I was like, ooh, like, I liked that idea. And then they got rid of it just to go on and try and sell people on a thing that I didn't care about. Which I was like, man, what a mistake was that. Like, you're really not going to go on and get a lot of mileage out of that thing, especially in a season. And so you really should have gone on and taken that item and put it in like the first season rather than the second. That whole festival episode could have really gone on into being like a season 1 of Dino Fury thing instead of this second season. But hey, like, that of course is the problem of which that you have at certain points of like, oh no, like, we can do this now. It's like, it's something to just kind of put out there to see if people are interested in it. Or it's to be a shelf warmer, because that could be it too. They go on and they do a cycle. And to me, whenever I was to have ever gotten a cycle, which was in one time and one time only, I was to get it with the original white Power Ranger from Mighty Morphin, and I never played with the cycle, and like, I would just kind of play with the White Ranger because it's the only white Ranger action figure that I had. And of course, I would just kind of look at the White Ranger and I'd be like, yeah, it's not as big as like the other Rangers that I have. And so I always wanted to ever want to go on and get like the White Ranger that was the actual like same size as the other. That's what I always ever wanted, was just the accurate matching of size. But that is what eventually happens when you, of course, go on to just kind of get a gift for a holiday or whatever, and it's just like, yeah, it's not like, but hey, I can still I can still play with it, I can still use it, and be grateful that, of course, you were to have gotten these toys when, of course, you were younger, or to even still be collecting them today. So, with that said, let's go on and state that the cycle was a stupid idea. But, hey, let's go on into these other episodes. Let's just go into spoilers. Let's talk about these things. So, I really did like the way they brought Void Knight back, because, hey, surprise, they brought Void Knight back. They would have thought, like, oh yeah, like, Void Knight is dead, alright, like, yeah, woohoo, and no, they just re-brought him back. In a very creative way, which also gave to a interesting monster that I did like, because, of course, if I was to have liked, God, what was it, the one, monster that had the kind of the standby, kind of all color, kind of screen looking, mean screen. There we go. If I like that monster, of course, when we had like Bit Scream, I was like, okay, like the visuals of this, it was cool. But yeah, so like I was won over by the monster and kind of the villain side of things, and then there was kind of some here or there kind of Power Ranger stuff. They it feels had to go on in this first 5 episodes, like especially this first one. They had to like write a bunch of people off. Like they had to write like Dr. Akana off. They had to write like Jane and Jayborg off. And so I was like, okay, like those characters aren't really all that honestly important anyways, but hey, like it's good to have a thing where I don't go on and say to well, hey, like you use so much of these characters blah blah before, why is it all of a sudden they're gone? So yeah, so really like it was smart thinking on these people to kind of write these characters off. Here's one thing that I also was to be happy about. So Amelia was actually working in Buzz Blast, and I was like, oh yeah, people work there, because for how it seemed that they were kind of focused on Buzz Blast early on, and then they kind of forgot about it, I think because a lot of people didn't care about the whole Buzz Blast thing. And so really maybe for this second season, if they're going to bring Buzz Blast back, they're going to do it in a better way, which I'm hoping, because it seems that from the second season, from what I saw of the Buzz Blast thing, I was like, okay, that actually is a good thing that that I saw from Buzz Blast when it was involved in these episodes. Because it also, like, the one of the stories that they did actually helped out the Rangers to realize, like, well, hey, I don't remember this. And it goes on to, like, to have them say this, like, well, yeah, like, I guess we did this. Like, I guess this happened. So, with that said, let's go on into the double 5-time territory, because it's about time to go into these. And I'll go in more in depth about the episodes. I kind of, like, I really did just kind of talk about the episodes, but let's go into further and kind of discuss, so to speak. Maybe I'll probably just state what happens in the episode, but we'll get there. So, let's go on. So, first off, we had two people, like, talking about New Year's resolutions. And I was like, okay, this is kind of a weird kind of way for me to be put into this, because I'm like, well, like, this is January when I'm filming this, so it's like, yeah, it does technically make sense. So we go on to have the Flying Sporix Beast, which honestly just looks like a random bag of crap. But hey, not all the monsters are going to be winners, hence why they probably just quickly got rid of this monster. So we have Javi, who's the Black Ranger, who is to call for his Stego Fury Strike, and is to immediately just wipe this Fly Sporix Beast out, as he used to be like, hey man, check out my fly swatter, and go with the saber, the goofy thing that they have to go on and just open and close that thing. And I get it, it's the whole, like, it's the visual of it all, but it's like that, it's never something that I'm ever gonna get used to. The goofy saber dance thing that they do, it is just so weird. But so we have that monster to get quickly wiped out. I was like, okay, that seemed very quick. But then they realized that, like, but we as viewers realized that that was the whole point of it, to try to wipe out a monster in the quickest way possible, because they were timing it. They're like, all right, 3 minutes and 30 seconds, because that's my Ion voice. Mo's a blast. Because that's what he sounds like, technically. Allegedly. Anyways, so we have Amelia that comes in after the fact because she's too busy with Buzz Blast stuff. And the Rangers are like, well, hey, like, we will be able to, like, take this out. And so Ollie used to state that like, well, yeah, like we know that you're really busy with Buzz Blast because Jane is gone doing her hot air balloon around the world in an 80 days mission that she was to supposedly document, and then it didn't work out. They ended up losing the equipment, and Jane and Jabor are kind of just forced to come back. And so it's like, okay, like that was an interesting way to like technically write them out or still write them in, but like they did something good there, I feel. So we have Izzy, who's like, well, hey, I'm gonna go on to do some javelin training. Deuces, I'm out. A-Town. Anyways, so we go into Buzz Blast, and so Javi is working on this new tune for this mystery buzz show. And I was like, oh my god, that actually is to be like a really good way to add in Javi and Amelia both at the same time. And like, I thought that was like a stroke of genius. Maybe I had a stroke while really fully watching every one of these episodes, and maybe I was to, of course, think that something was good and it wasn't, or vice versa, but still. We have Amelia, who is to kind of get this, like, watermelon video rolling, whatever that frickin' was. And so we have Amelia that is to call Jane, and so both Jane and Jayborg are over London, and I'm like, man, like, that phone call was to probably be really expensive, right? So we, oddly enough, have Amelia who is talking about Pop Pop and saying that he's going into doing some wart surgery. And so they even like wrote out Pop Pop, even though I was like, man, that seems like a thing that you should not go on and just kind of tell people. It seems rather personal to talk about like warts and stuff like that. But she not only says it once, she says it twice. So we then have the rest of the Rangers that are at Dino Henge. And so we have Ollie talking to Dr. Akana. And so she, of course, is to be in Japan. She's at the Ishinomori Institute. Ishinomori Institute? Sure. Hopefully that's somewhat pronounced correctly. And so we have her go on and say it. It's like, well, yeah, like it seems like there was some kind of reference to like maybe Godzilla or something like that in the way that Akana was talking, and so I was like, all right, okay, this is interesting. Man, would honestly, I love it if we were to get like a one-off Power Ranger episode in Japan, just kind of just to change things up, to really have us like kind of go back to a simpler time, I guess, or whatever. I don't know. Whatever I was to say there. Just an interesting change of visuals. Like, it would be kind of cool, instead of just doing like a world jumping thing, maybe we do like a scenery jumping thing. Even though I know a lot of these shows end up getting filmed in New Zealand and whatever, but still. And they also even have to reference that they are in New Zealand. Specifically in Dino Charge, I saw that a lot. Anyways, so Ali, Ion, and Zato and Solon are looking for Rafkon, the Wrath of Khan. And so they end up realizing that they need to go on and find some astronomy books and hope that they can find where Rafkon is. I don't know if that's this yeah, I think it's this episode. So we go back to Area 62. So we have Scyther and Mucus, And so Mucus is on top of this wrecking ball as Mucus is doing this Miley Cyrus moment, and at least she has all of her mucus on. And so Mucus is to bash into this door to figure out what is behind that secret door that Void Knight keeps going into. And so it seems that the wrecking ball doesn't go on and do what it's supposed to. Void Knight interrupts them from doing what they're trying to do, and he is to appear on this TV screen. And so I was like, all right, like this seems like a really cool visual, so much so that I wanted to put it up as a thumbnail, but who knows if that'll like stick, but it looks like a really cool visual. So we have Void Knight shows up, and he immediately is to create Bitscream, and immediately when he starts talking about deletion and all this stuff, I was like, all right, like this is cool. Like you can probably state that it's probably stealing from Mean Screen, but still, I really liked this character and how it was kind of like going into technologies and kind of listening in on the Rangers. I was like, wow, that's actually a really good idea. So we have Ion, Javi, and Izzy that make their way. So I was right. It was the library. I had to think for a minute. So Ion is to have these astronomy books, and he's getting like every single one of them. And so Javi and Izzy are like, man, you got a lot of astronomy books. It's like, well, Ion's like, well, hey, like, Ravcon's not going to find itself. And so, or something like that. So we all of a sudden have Izzy who gets a phone call, the old-fashioned visual of a phone call, even though I could have a phone right here. Just, hey, yeah. So Izzy is to all of a sudden think she is talking to Fern, but instead we find out that Bitscream is on the other end. And so we have the Rangers who want to go on and, of course, try to morph, or they morph theoretically, and why do we have to just drop these like random words that are just to have no real impact of what was going on here? They did morph. They did. Anyways, so we have the Gold Ranger who has all these books, and he's like, hey man, I gotta take all these books and I gotta put them somewhere. So we have Ion that takes these books, and Bitscream is like, hey, like, I'm gonna take full advantage of this. And so he attacks the Gold Ranger, and the Gold Ranger smacks into this flower cart. And I'm like, oh no, not a flower cart. Whatever are they gonna do? So we have the Rangers that are going into their keys and their stuff that they have to whip out, because, man, are they just heavily... I've never seen so many Power Rangers episodes where they have to use these, like, key things, like, all the freaking time. There's, like, 8,500 different keys, and they gotta find one, or they already have one, and, like, okay, here's the gobbledygook freaking key that we have, or oh, here's the fart nugget key, here's that one. I'm like, man, like, there is, like, this reminds me of kind of like Megaforce in a way, because they kind of did that same thing, but still, like, I was like, man, there's so many keys that they just have to pop out to sell to people, and at certain points they're like, well, hey, yeah, here's the Zord that comes with it. I'm like, sure, whatever. Whatever balloon, goofy, weird elasto key, whatever, fire, or fire flash thing, key, whatever you're putting out this episode show. So we have the Stego Fury Strike, we have the balloon key being used, the Elasto key, and the flare flash, and so that goes on and is to temporarily just kind of keep this monster at bay, to have him go away. And so we all of a sudden have this guy who runs out, and it's like, oh my god, my flower cart. And I'm like, dude, this guy is way overacting. It's like, oh my god, my flower cart. And I'm like, who acts like this? Probably me. And so, like, we all of a sudden have the Rangers who are to whip out this, like, fix-it Dino key, and I'm like, here we go again, another freaking key that we have to just bust out right now. So, they oddly enough go on and fix this cart for this guy, and he's like, oh my god, Rangers, you fix this for me. And Blitzcream is to go on to be like, yank, I'm gonna take this key. And I'm like, why couldn't the monsters have done that since the beginning? Take all this crap away from the Rangers, seal all of it so they can never use it again. Why wasn't that like plan A? Instead of getting all the Sporex, just take all the equipment away from the Power Rangers. Make it so that they can never use it again. Have it be in lock and key somewhere to force the Rangers to now have to go on and use something else at their disposal. Maybe a kick, maybe a punch, maybe a fart, I don't know. Use something. So, because it seems like the Power Rangers don't punch or kick anymore. Like, are they trying to go on and try to avoid doing a kick or a punch because maybe there, of course, could be like some kind of weird thing going on of ratings and or whatever the rated part of the episode is if they go on and kick and punch people too often. Is that a dangerous thing to use? I don't know. Anyways, so, but again, that stealing key thing was great. I was like, finally, somebody's doing something. So next up, we're back at Dino Henge, and we have the Rangers that are going on and be like, well, like, why would they want the fix-it key? What could they use it for? And we again have the Rangers coming up with stupid ideas of, like, well, hey, I don't even want to say what it is because it's a stupid idea. So, they all of a sudden realize that they have the Void Knight Saber, and from that battle of which that they had defeated Void Knight, because of course we find out that Void Knight is still alive. So, what kind of real defeat is that? So, we have the Rangers that are like, well, hey, like, we bizarrely have this camera footage of that whole cart scene from before. Like, let's try and figure out what was going on with that whole fight. So, they go on and they are to grab the key from the Rangers, and then it's like, okay, like, well, we didn't really see anything there. But then they go further to realize that the guy who is to be the cart owner was to actually be Slyther. And it's like, so that was like a plan all along. Like, there's something really important about that whole fix-it key, and we have to figure out what it is. So, they go on and they start talking about the Void Knight Saber. And we have Izzy that is to look at the laptop, and it seems to have this kind of unusual glitch to it. And so Izzy's like, well, yeah, I remember that glitch on my phone. Funny enough, Amelia couldn't have made that also connection during a further part in this episode. So, Izzy sees the glitch on the laptop, and she's like, Blitzcream is listening in. So she goes on and states like, hey guys, yeah, let's all go on and just destroy this saber. Let's explode it. It's gonna be really difficult to explode a thing like this, because when really thinking about it, how often would you try to go on and have to like like destroy something that of course is not so easy to destroy in a Power Ranger show? It happens quite often. So but Izzy's like, yeah, let's explode this thing. This seems like a great idea, everybody. And then she closes the laptop, and the Ranger's like, why did you say that? And they're also like, why did you go on and put uh, a bit of clothing over this laptop? Did it get cold? And I was like, oh my god! Why the Rangers have to go on and at certain points say stupid things? But then again, I have to repeat them at certain points for how dumb that they are. So with that said, it's like, Izzy is like, well, hey, that's my plan. I realized the whole glitch thing. I realized that the monster was listening in, and they're like, aha! So we have Void Knight, who goes on to talk to Bit Scream at Area 62. And so they're talking about the saber and how it's going to get destroyed. And so Bit Scream is like, well, hey, I have a plan. So they go on and they have Ollie, like, kind of, who has kind of prepped up this whole explosionary thing or explosives. And he's like, okay, like, the explosions are going off in 20 minutes. And Amelia's like, yeah, Ollie's a sucky actor. It's like, wow, like, what a brutal thing to say on the show. But then it's no, like, it's all for the, like, the whole playing it up thing. So Amelia goes on and is to grab the laptop from, of course, Ollie to be more convincing than Ollie's like, yeah, Amelia's a better actor. And it's like, man, like, let's move on here. So we go on to have, like, Amelia, who's like, well, no, we're gonna have it be done a lot quicker than the 20 minutes. And so all of a sudden, Amelia is to get a phone call and be distracted while she's trying to work on the device, also to get this bomb to go much faster. And we come to find out that the phone call is to be from Buzz Blast, and we find out that instead that that's actually Bitscream, who is trying to go on and get to the saber. And so it does, while the other Rangers are to be distracted. And so they go on to just kind of pull this whole caper off. And so we have Slither and Mucus that are going on to tell the Rangers about this whole plot twist. And so the Rangers morph and get their Zords. So we have the T-Rex Cosmic Megazord that ends up getting put out here. So we have the Cosmic Zord that goes into the Cosmic Gateway, and it goes into cyberspace, which I was like, okay, like, you know what, I can just kind of, like, I could enjoy a battle that kind of takes place in a different thing than normal, instead of the usual kind of Godzilla-like settings where it's either like some city or it's to be some like mountainside somewhere. Cyberspace, that's different, right? So we end up having the Bitscream monster that talks about that he's not getting any cookies and he's getting more power. And I thought that was kind of like a funny line there, so I thought I would add it in here. So we then have the Mega Fury Saber wiping out the monster, of course, as per usual. So But we still get Tarek, or Tarek, not sure how to pronounce this, the guy who is normally Void Knight. So we have Void Knight out of his skin, let's just say, or out of his normal morphed self. And so he uses the fixed key, and we have him go and grab the Sporix, I believe. So we have Void Knight that is back in business. So we have Amelia that is to mention about juggling both Buzz Blast, being a Power Ranger, and she realizes that like she has been taking on too much lately, and so of course she ends up calling Jane and is to tell her it's like, well, yeah, like I think I'm kind of just done with being in charge. And Jane is like, well, what a coincidence, because me and J-Borg are back by the end of the episode. Isn't that convenient? So they talk about their adventures that they almost, I think, at some point had gotten into a volcano or some kind of lava something. And they had gone on to lose their filming equipment, so all of that journey was a waste. But hey, they'll always have the memories, right? You would have thought that maybe with J-Borg being who she was, maybe J-Borg should have been, like, their own equipment. Because why can't J-Borg just have her own, like, camera thing, like, taking the footage? Wouldn't that make a crap ton of sense? Plus, also, if the equipment didn't last, why is it that J-Borg did? Little confused by that. But so, we now have me go on into the next episode. So, we have at Area 62, we have Mucus, Slither, and Void Knight all there. So, we have this monster that is kind of coming in from the cold, or coming in from the seaweed, it seems. And they're like, oh, good, like, hey, we don't have to go on and grab a monster this time. It's coming to us, so great. So we come to find out that this monster is none other than Wreckmate. And I was like, all right, like, I liked Boom Tower and I liked Wreckmate. It's good that they're kind of reshuffling these things out. But there would also be certain times where I would just like a massive bit of monsters that came back for one episode and one episode only. But again, that's just me. A lot of people will be like, I never really liked those episodes. They were really busy. I get it. There could be always different tastes for different places. You know what I'm saying? No? Good. Anyways, so we have both Wreckmate, we have both Slifer, and they don't really like one another, it seems. And we have Slither, who is to have this potion, and he is to state that it's a combat supercharge. And so we have Wreckmate and Slither that is going to go into this contest to see who's the better Sporix beast, and who, of course, is going to go on and take down most of the Rangers. We have Wreckmate, who is to steal the potion from Slither. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, of course. You get the obvious, like, pirate to kind of drink its rum, but call it potion. Sure, all right. So I was kind of won over by that. Like, I didn't mind that they had this kind of potion-like thing, even though Wreckmate goes on to drink the potion, and then he never uses it, and so he has to go on, by the time that he goes and first fights the Rangers, he has to go on and have another potion, and then at some point in this episode he runs out. I'm like, well, dude, you could have really had that one extra potion when you were fighting the Rangers, and you would have probably lasted a little bit longer, maybe a couple minutes longer in this episode, but no. So, anyways, going on. So, we have Solon that brings in Zato and Ion. Mo's a blast! Just random times where, like, the Rangers just whip out their blasters or whatever, just start attacking because they get scared. Why doesn't that ever happen in the Power Rangers show, where people are to kind of whip out their weapons because they're like, hey, we weren't sure, we were scared, we didn't know what was going on. And so, come to find out, we have like Zato and Ion, who's like, well, hey, what do you need from us, Solon? And they're just like, well, hey, like, we have Ollie come in, and everybody else is like, well, hey, like, since, like, I had my birthday, like, the week before, or whatever the heck it was, I was to start realizing, well, like, hey, like, when do you guys have your birthdays? Because you guys are from a completely different planet. And so, come to find out, Solon had found out about the Triple Sun Festival today, and I'm like, oh, this is the festival episode. So, I was like, I like the Triple Sun Festival thing, like one holiday to just kind of give gifts to both of the Rafcons, and so we have a motorcycle being given to Ion, and weirdly enough, he ends up taking a picture in Dino Henge with the bike, with possibly Solon being in the photo, and he's going to use this as a profile picture somewhere. And I'm like, I wouldn't. How could you go on and use that as a profile picture when you have, like, evidence that's like, oh, well, he's obviously the Power Ranger because there's that monster in the background. And he's in Dino Henge. I know where Dino Henge is. Don't you guys all know where Dino Henge is? Anyways, and then we, of course, have Zato that ends up getting the Dino Chuck. So it's like, yeah, cool. And then they get rid of it so quickly. So we go on to have, while everybody kind of goes off, Ion is to play with the Dino Chucks, and he ends up not only breaking the Dino Chucks, as Solon was to even tell him, like, hey, like, don't play ball in the house, and he basically goes on and plays ball in the house anyways. So he plays with the Dino Chucks, breaks not only the Dino Chucks, but also breaks the one place that they can go on and have parts fixed. How convenient is that? Like, the extra part, little container thing, whatever that was called. So, we come to find that there, of course, is to be Sporix Beast out and about. So, we have Zato that goes on to tell, like, well, hey, Izzy, Ion, and Javi, you go out and you take out Mucus and Slither, and, like, the other rest of us will go on and we'll do our time with Wreckmate. So we have Izzy, Ion, and Javi that are to fight off Mucus and Slither, to the point of us just kind of quickly going into Zato and Amelia and Ollie, and they are fighting off Wreckmate, and this is a much more, like, better part of this story, because we have Wreckmate who is easily just taking out all three of these Rangers, to the point of Zato who's like, well, okay, like, let's go on and let's use our new flashy weapon, the Dino Chucks, and immediately once he does the Dino Chuck strike, the thing, like, stops, and he's like, okay, this doesn't make sense, and then it kind of backfires on him. So we go on to, of course, have kind of wreckmate from this fight of the Rangers, like he easily survives. So he eventually wants to like move on to the other Rangers and kind of fight with them also, and to the point where it seems that everybody is to get kind of taken out here as far as the Power Rangers are concerned. And so Wreckmate wants to go on and see like the progress of Slifer, and so Wreckmate is to kind of put it in Slifer's face, like ha ha ha, like I took out all the Rangers and you didn't do jack. So we have Solon that is to contemplate how Wreckmate is to still have survived and how he was to come back. And so maybe you should go on and just have like a Sporix Beast prison or something. Like, you obviously, like, you really have to figure out a way to just take down these monsters, or they're just going to keep coming back anyways. Again, I'm thinking a big batch of monsters are all coming, because since now we have, through these 5 episodes, it seems that we go on to have like the whole reasoning for the Sporix things to be moot for the villain side of things. Now they can go on and use these Sporix to do whatever they want now. But moving on. So we have Solon and Zato who are talking about the Dino Chucks. And so Solon is like, well, hey, I can go on and I can fix the Dino Chucks. And all of a sudden, they try to fix it and they accidentally destroy them. I was like, oh, okay, like, that was a good thing there that you just ruined, but whatever. So Solon gets kind of knocked back, and so they grab Solon, like, hey, are you okay? And Solon's like, well, like I'm just sorry that I destroyed the Dino Chucks. And so, like, Solon is like, well, hey, I can just go on and see if I can fix the pieces and kind of make another one. So they go into the one place that has all these parts, and they realize that all of those are destroyed. So they're having to come up with ideas of what they can do to put together some kind of weapon that seems similar to the Power Rangers of the past. So I'm like, all right, like, we're using like, even though this feels like a recapping, and I really don't like that kind of episode, it seems that, like, I was just kind of like, it was a nice kind of relief to just kind of see, like, hey, some old footage of stuff that I probably liked. Because they brought up Samurai, and they brought up Mighty Morphin, and then they also brought up some, like, Wild Force and Ninja Storm, I think, and all that stuff. So, you know, that is what it is. I always have to have my, like, yeah, this is how I feel about the season, even though I haven't gone on and seen a lot of it. And I could have a complete turnaround about certain whatevers, but I couldn't be bothered to watch that. Moving on. So, but yeah, so Ion also had to admit his mistake and tell them what he had did. And so we at first are to talk about the Red Samurai Ranger and his Fire Smasher. I was like, yeah, all right, like something that like puts on a pretty big impact. But then they're like, no. Like, Solon's like, well, I don't think I can even figure out how that really works. And so it's like, oh yeah, of course, don't go on and do the samurai weapon. Go on and try something else, right? Because you have to have a variety of different seasons to showcase here. So we then go into the Ninja Storm Blue Sonic Fin, which I was like, really, just don't do that weapon. So, like, they say it's like, ooh, wow, like, this weapon seems really cool. But then Solon is to say, it's like, well, like, the one piece that I can go to make this with, it's broken, so yeah, that's not gonna work. So we have Zato who's to go on and be like, well, hey, like, what about those cycles that the Rangers used to have? And so we have the Mighty Morphin footage of them having cycles being used, and then they go into the Wild Force footage, and so I think oddly, like when they went to the Mighty Morphin footage, I think they had to like edit their voices because like what could you have not have gone on and really try to use the audio in that footage? You had to like F it up or whatever. That just seemed odd. Like, were you trying to like not want to pay somebody for that footage being used? I don't know what that was. That seemed very weird. Uh, so we then go on to have the Ninja Steel White Ranger, who is to have the Mega Morph cycle, and it uses a Plasma Blast, and it's like, so they were basically just to rip off that same cycle and was to just say that it's brand spanking new. And it looks different. It's, oh yeah, look at this cycle. I was like, you know what? I like the cycle looked big, and I was like, okay, like it's cool that it looks big, but it also just looks stupid. I don't like cycles. I could just state that the cycles are just dumb. For me, people could feel differently. So we find out that Wreckmate is back in town, and so Ion is to tell Zato and Solon, it's like, well, hey, well, you guys are to use my bike to put together a basically rip off Mega Morph cycle. Like, I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna fight Wreckmate, and hopefully I can kind of last with all like the electro battle armor and all the stuff that he goes on and uses in this fight. So we have Ion who's kind of calling for Zato. It's like, hey man, like, can I get a little help? And so Zato's like, well, hey, just give me a minute here. So we have a thing that I just want to go on and call like the Dino Fury cycle, but I think the description that was to be on one of these toys on Amazon was we call it the Power Rangers Dino Fury Rip and Go Battle Rider. Whatever that means. I don't even know if that even is the real like description of whatever that was. Battle Rider, that seems dumb. But again, we have this cycle that goes on to use the Plasma Blast, ripping off that other thing, obviously. And so we go on to have another one of these monsters bite the dust. So we just move on to the next monster, like we were surprised that it at all had happened, that a defeat had happened some way or another. So Wreckmate could have gotten killed, but he didn't get completely wiped out. So like he's just becoming like a guy that is just consistently used in the show as kind of background after they kind of bring him back. So now we have at the Area 62, we have Slither, Wreckmate, Mucus, and Void Knight, and Oculo comes in. And so they're like, alright, like, we can use this monster as a Sporex spotter because it seems that Oculo can go on and kind of see through anything. I'm like, why doesn't it go on and see through that secret room that Mucus and Slither want them to know what's in that other room? So Slyther is to talk about this unusual, it looks like a steering wheel amulet that is supposed to be something that is to make these rangers forget. So I was like, okay, like you can have them like completely get brainwashed, and you could have a ranger kind of pull off like the king for a day thing, where we tell them like, oh no, like you were fighting for us, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but it could be an interesting just kind of turn for a character. Maybe see if a character could work out better on the evil side, because I think Ollie, at some point, there's I think there's a story where that happens. Maybe, I don't know. But also by the end of the festival episode, we go on to really realize something when it seems a certain person is to like a cake. And I was like, I wonder why that is. Because, of course, I end up going on to find out something about a character because people accidentally or on purpose spoil things. And then it's like, oh, well, yeah, I guess I know where this character is heading in the show. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, just trying to be a little bit vague, but maybe not good enough. So we go on to have Solon, who's going through a system update. She's going through Windows 98. Because 97 was just not good enough. So we have them go on after Solon is to get a system update. And we have Ravcon that is to have 3 sons. Because, of course, we've already talked about the 3 sons festival event thing. So that's the whole connection. So they found the 3 sons, but they're still trying to figure out where Ravcon is. And they even go on to state, it's like, well, hey, like, we have the cosmic keys, and why can't we just teleport to Ravcon? And we, of course, have Zato, who's like, well, like, but we need to find Ravcon first. And I'm like, why can't you just say, like, hey, keys, find out where Ravcon is for us? Why do they have to find it out themselves? Maybe because they could think that it's to be like Krypton, where it's completely like destroyed. So yeah, I don't know. It could be a number of things going on there. So Amelia is talking about her shoulder, and like, yeah, I don't know what it is, but like maybe I just had some gypsy curse being put on me, and like I think that just my shoulder is out of whack. And so we find out that the light key is to be this kind of spellbreaker thing. So we have them go on to zap Amelia, and nothing happens. Her shoulder still hurts for some unusual reason. So we have Izzy and Javi, who are to go on and try to look for a Sporex, and that just leads them to Oculo and Slyther. So we end up having the rest of the Rangers meet up with Javi and Izzy, and that's, of course, when Slyther goes on to use his memory mix-up thing, his amulet, and we have Slyther that goes on to bizarrely choose to have all the Rangers think that they're gonna to have found a pickle instead of a Sporex thing, and so the Rangers are to walk off and realize like, oh no, like we didn't fight any of these villains, like we just went on to find a pickle. And so bizarrely, we have Solon that is to state, it's like, well, hey, like we're getting so many like wrong calls and there to be pickles instead. It's like, okay, like Scyther must really like that whole pickle thing. I don't know why, but when he finally changes it to a teddy bear, it's like, okay, great. Like, we finally get a difference here. So, we have the T-Rex Cosmic Megazord. That is to do a cosmic gateway to get to the three suns, and he is trying to find Rafcon, and we again have Amelia with like, man, this just shoulder ache, and they go on to all of a sudden, for the first time ever throughout this whole entire series, the Power Rangers actually go on and watch a Jane and Jayborg video talking about shoulder issues. And come to find out, Jayborg is to massage the death out of Jane, to where she's like on top of her dancing, and it's weird. And so, come to find out, the reason why they even did this video is because there was footage of the Pink Ranger who ended up kind of smacking against this thing, hurting her shoulder. And the Rangers realized, like, oh my god, like, that must have been the reason why Amelia's shoulder hurts. But, like, we really can't go on and remember what happened from that. So Solon must have been right all along that those false alarms were not false alarms. They just couldn't remember what really happened. Because Solon was asking the Rangers, like, well, are you sure that your memory is right? And even, like, Solon was, like, second-guessing all of them. And the Rangers were second-guessing Solon. It's like, well, hey, maybe your system update is just kind of malfunctioning. Maybe there's something wrong with that. Because for 6 Rangers to have, like, the same memory, and they're all talking about this juicy, succulent pickle or whatever. This juicy, delicious, succulent pickle and whatever. And they're going on and on about how juicy and succulent and delicious the pickle was. And I'm like, okay, like, you guys are kind of getting a little weird, but so am I. So, we go on to have Zato, who is to find this beacon. So that doesn't exactly lead them to Rafcon, but it leads them to some beacon that is to have some message. But so, we have the Rangers going on to fight off while Zato is out in space to try and fight Oculo and Scyther. And they're like, well, hey, like, we really need that spell-breaking key, but since Zato is out using it, it's like, well, we're just gonna have to, like, try our best. So, when, of course, Zato comes back, he comes back with the Dino Fury cycle, and he uses the Plasma Blast. And so, Zato is to break the amulet with his saber, and then he goes and uses the light key armor, and he, like, spell breaks all the Rangers for them to get their memories back. And so they use the Flare Flash and the slick and shiny Dino Fury Force attack thing, and they're trying all these attacks. They're using all these goofy keys, but we have Void Knight that comes in and, like, counters the Rangers' attack. I'm like, good, great. So we have the Rangers that kind of back down and get out of there. So, like, we have, like, the guys on both sides are just kind of scrambling out of there. So, after Void Knight comes in, because they realize, like, oh my god, he's back! He's alive! He's Super Shredder, basically. Because they didn't think that Shredder was dead, but then he ended up coming back also. So, we had the Rangers that apologize to Solon, and so Zato is to find this message, and Amelia is just like, well, hey, like, this message seems familiar than the message that we had gotten before. And so from that broadcast from space. So they decide to combine both the messages together and play them at the same time. And they find this message that it's to be this kind of weird, goofy thing that doesn't like tell them the combination of the safe or whatever. Like it's not they're gonna find some Dino key somewhere or some goofy thing like that. So we then go on and have Oculo that is to find a Sporex, and we have the Rangers try and fight off Oculo, and so... Oh, no. My bad. We have Oculo that goes on and finds the Sporex, and he watches on to see the Rangers doing this balloon game, where the Rangers would have these like balloons tied to them, and whoever is to be the last two, they're gonna see them duke it out. So we have Ollie and Amelia that are left, and I was like, okay, I like this balloon game. It's kind of fun. Like it doesn't always have to be like them morphing and whatever. But hey, like this is a nice kind of change of the normal thing. So all while like Ollie is is just stuffing his face with donuts and cupcakes. He's like, "Hey man, like I've trained more than enough, and Mo's a blast." I can't help it. It's just too tempting to just say it somewhere. So we have Ion who's just stuffing his face, and I'm just like, okay, all right, like I get it. Like you're finally just taking one break from all the fighting and all the other training stuff that you have to go and ridiculously do. Mo's a blast. Anyways, so they all of a sudden are to find a baby Paka Zord. And it's like, oh, how cute is that? Oh, so they look at it and they're like, well, wait a minute, like, because both Zato and Ion know this Zord well. It's like, well, like, this Zord has gotten very small. Because it wasn't baby before, it was like a full-size Zord. So, like, okay, like, well, we have Ion who is to take his blaster and have the Grow Dino key go in there. So I'm like, oh my god, this episode is turning into Ant-Man, basically. So we have them trying to go on and try to hit this Zord, and it keeps running off. And we all of a sudden have like whipped cream being a giant-sized thing, then ends up hitting Zato, and how goofy is that? And we have a donut that becomes bigger than it is, and sort of like, donut, alright. A giant donut! Sounds really cool. It doesn't sound very healthy, but still, it's giant donut. Anyways, so we... Because, you know, like, not everybody is to be the healthiest person. And... Anyways, moving on. So... we have the Rangers being excited because if this is to be another Zord, that is to be like the Smash Dino Paka Zord, they're like, well, hey, like, that will lead us to like more keys, more armor, and we of course had like Ion, who was really excited about it because he loved that that key from prior use. So we have Oculo that is to find the last Sporex and is to give it to Void Knight. And so Void Knight finds out that this is not enough to completely like charge his machine. So he's kind of looking at Oculo. It's like, well, you're a Sporex, and Oculo's like, well, hey, like if you really need more Sporex, maybe you can kind of ran some that baby Zord, and Void Knight's like, well, yeah, I'm gonna take that Zord, and we're gonna see if the Ranger's gonna give us some Sporex for it. So Ion is to hold, or is to be told, while he has the baby Paka, and he has it on a leash, and he's kind of taking it out. We have him find out that's like, well, hey, like, drum roll, please. Like, the key is to be inside the Zord, and so they need to go on and find the Zords to get the key. So we have Ion, who is to kind of take the Zord and kind of run off with it, and so we have Wreckmate and Oculo that are to find the Zord while Ion is kind of lose track of it, and so Solon tells Ollie and Ion the smaller Zord is just the baby, but then there's also the bigger Zord. So it's like, well, duh, we could have come up with that conclusion anyways. Because why is there have to be this small Zord? It doesn't make any sense. So we have Ion, who finds both Wreckmate and Oculo, and just to call the rest of the Rangers over there to be like, hey, we're gonna pounce on these guys. So that just leads to, of course, the baby Paka getting away from Wreckmate and Oculo to where the Rangers start looking for it, and so they end up having these hearing and vision keys to find the bigger Pakazord in this cave, and they end up taking the Grow Dino key to make it to make this rock larger, so they can kind of toss it against this cave and break the cave. So while these Rangers are kind of distracted doing that, the other Rangers are getting chained up by Wreckmate. And so we have then the Moza Razor Zord that goes on to fight against Oculo. And we have Ollie that goes into his Smash Dino key, because it's either Smash or Pass, right? Yeah, I went there. Whatever. So, we have the Blue Ranger in his armor going against Wreckmate. So, weirdly enough, I just stated Smash or Pass, and the same vein of there being a monster that has the word mate in it. So, weird, right? Just bottom of the barrel I'm going here. Or kind of getting into the dirtier mind of things. Anyways, so Paka Smash Sword. That happens. We then have the Dino Fury Megazord Smash formation. And because, of course, we had Ollie that goes and saves the Rangers. The Rangers kind of reunite to go up against Oculo and wipe him out, because of course that's what always happens. They end up using the Mega Fury Saber, just take out that gold huge blade thing, and go on to have the Paka Mega Punch, which I was like, great, finally we have something other than a saber coming out of that Zord. And anyways, we have this punch where I'm like, okay, so we're getting to like the Ninja Megazord kind of thing, where we'd have like the Ninja Megazord that would have like the two punches, and you would have like the animal visual that would just bizarrely come up. That I was like, okay, I think I could have understand between the punches that like it was to be the wolf or the ape Zord kind of doing the 1-2. You didn't have to really go on and never have showed me those animals, but hey, that show was what it was. So with that said, we then go on and have Ion, who is talking to the Rangers on at Dino Henge, and he's talking about them. Like, well, hey, like that just tells me that I need to go on and like I really need to like train with you guys. And well, yeah, because it all comes down to teamwork. If you're gonna just have a guy who's probably just gonna work by himself, and he's gonna do what he's gonna do, and then the rest of the Rangers can just kind of f off or whatever. So when looking at it, look at like Teen Titans. When Teen Titans would have like the Delta attack or the Alpha attack or whatever goofy thing, like if Ion doesn't do any of the training, then he's not going to know like super secret delicious attacks, and like he's just going to be oblivious, and he's just going to be like, well, like maybe I should have been with the team the whole entire time, kind of synchronizing our attacks or combining our attacks together, which they don't even do in this show. It's kind of like the Rangers are just kind of do whatever they want. And it's not like a very combined attack. Like, yeah, we do have the times where they bring in all the keys and they do the strike, but yeah, it's not like they're really like combining attacks together, it seems, with all these Rangers. Even though it may seem that way, to me it just really doesn't. They're all for themselves and like, well, hey, I'm going to do this. Oh yeah, I guess I'll do this then. But that's not like, I don't know. It kind of feels like everybody's for themselves. It is what it is. So let's go on, and so Ion is just to talk about training. So Ollie's like, well, yeah, like Ion, like let's do training. Let's spend 4 hours, 6 hours. And Ion's like, I ain't doing that. And Ollie's like, it's a joke. So Void Knight finally, after getting the Sporix beast, and he's like, yeah, Sporix, yeah. Like, this monster lost yet again. Either way, it was going to go into me using it for my machine. So, finally, Void Knight gets enough Sporix for this machine to finally work. And I'm like, man, frickin' finally. And so, we then have the Void Queen, which I'll just call her Void Queen. I know that she does have another name, but I'm just going to call her Void Queen because it's easier than stating whatever that goofy other name that sounds like Saturn or Saturana or whatever it is. But anyways, so we have the Void Queen, the Void Queen, who is kind of drinking out of this thing of water. Speaking of which, so we have the Void Queen who is talking to the Void Knight, and so she realizes that they're on Earth. And so she's like, really? Like, we're still on Earth? And Void Knight's like, well, yeah, like, we've been losing, like, for the last, like, 30 some odd episodes. Didn't you know? Didn't you watch all of them? Oh no, you were just in a Bacta tank or whatever, Star Wars, whatever thing, and you were just kind of like, meh. I'm still sleeping. I don't know what's going on in this season. So this should be like the last episode anyways. The whole prom episode, it just kind of felt like a filler episode. I like what they did with Izzy here, but like it just felt like a filler. It just felt like they were just needing something to just kind of like, hey man, this seems like a simple enough story. Let's check it out. So we have Izzy and Fern And so they're talking about prom. And so Furnace asks Izzy to the prom. It's like, oh, well, that's nice. Either way, it could have been whoever to ask out. But yeah, like, so all of a sudden we have just Izzy's mom who is to just kind of jump out of the shadows, just be like, aha, like, how about I go on and I just kind of make the clothes for you guys to wear at the prom? And they're just like, sure, why not? So we have both Slyther and Mucus that are trying to figure out what's going on with Void Knight, and they're to talk about the Sporks machine, and they end up kind of hitting it, and all of a sudden a Sporix comes flying, and that all of a sudden creates Junkalo, and Junkalo makes trash into parts, and so we all of a sudden have Void Knight who comes out and he's like, oh my god, like, this could be useful besides him, like, barfing or burping or farting or whatever he does, which of course would be Junkalo. And so Void Knight is to state that he can use a character that can make certain parts for him. So, because Void Knight is trying to do this Zord Jammer thing to hope that he can stop the Zords from going out to help out the Rangers, and he's also gonna like try to figure out like the signals and whatever, and so on. So we have an episode showing of Mystery Buzz, which is like, yeah, like, I liked the whole Mystery Buzz idea, but like, we don't really get to see any of it. It's still not the paranormal thing that we had thought it was in the beginning of this show, but now it isn't that anymore. It's now Mystery Buzz. We don't get anything of that really, and that just sucked. So we have them bizarrely in this episode talking about the Kung Fugitive, which I was like, I need to see a movie poster of Kung Fu Fugitive somewhere. I want to see a movie premiere of Kung Fugitive or something, like on an episode. It'll be a stupid idea, but it'll be funny. So, like, really selling this thing that is to be the stupidest thing that they created, because you always have to come up with stupid ideas for a movie or a show or whatever, because that's what it is. So we have Javi that brings Izzy what is to be what she's going to wear for the prom, and Izzy realizes that it's a dress. Oh no! If we were to have already have gone on and seen Izzy in the past, who is to rip off the skirt of her Power Rangers character, we then have to realize that she's not going to wear a dress now. So we have Izzy who's going on and on complaining about this dress thing, and that Izzy is to think that her mother doesn't have like her best intentions at heart and whatever, just wants her daughter to just wear a dress for prom. So Solon is to mention to the Rangers that there is to be a Sporex beast at the dump, because it's Mucus and Junkalo. And so Mucus is telling Junkalo, like, hey, eat all the pieces you can so you can make all these parts. So we have the Rangers making their way to the dump, as we had gone on to also see before these guys leave Buzz Blast that a garbage guy is complaining about these guys not getting their trash out on time. So anyways, the Rangers go meet up with Mucus and Junkalo to have them fight off henchmen. Man, honesty, for this show, I think henchmen never really get shown all that well. I don't know how many times that I would probably just see, like, henchmen would just kind of get, like, quickly wiped out. Like, I'm like, man, like, henchmen don't really have their time in the sun in this show. Like, this is probably, like, the worst like foot soldiers that I've ever seen in this show. Because there'd be so many times when I would see uh like any of the other foot soldiers, they would get used really well. These ones, it really sucks. So Javi is to use the Blazon key, and Mucus and Junkalo like, hey, we're peacing out. Like, we got what we came here for. So we then have Fern, who's to send a picture to Izzy, seeing that there must have been some mix-up, and Fern had gotten Izzy's suit. And so now they're like, well, like we have to go on, we have to scramble to get to the trash to find that dress. And so they try and they go on and they find the dress. And so now they're like, okay, we found the dress. And so Zato is telling Izzy, like, well, hey, like, you need to go on and you obviously need to talk to your mother and see if she can go on and fix this dress. And we're going to go on and focus on how to get and find this monster. And Ollie used to talk about pollution sensors. So we have Junkalo and Mucus, and I think this might be the point where Mucus tries to go on and brush Junkalo's teeth, and he goes on and he eats her, as well as the toothpaste and the toothbrush. So Izzy goes on to talk to her mother, and we have like Izzy's mom was like, well, yeah, I always like wanted your best intentions at heart and whatever. Blah, blah, blah. So Izzy is to have realized that there must have been a mix-up and that she had gotten this dress, and so Izzy's mom is just like, well, hey, like, I'll go on and I'll make another one because, of course, we weren't thinking that this dress was going to actually be used in this episode anyways. That something brand new was going to get used anyways. Moving on. So, we have um maybe I'd gotten a little bit confused here. So we have Void Knight, who is to go on and use his machine. He's to get his machine together, and so we have Junkalo and Mucus that are go on and man, I'm having some issues here. Let me take a pause here for a second. Void Knight tries to go on and tell both Junkalo and Mucus, like, well, hey, like, Junkalo, you go out there, and when you try to fight the Rangers, you try to go big, and I'm going to go on and try to use this machine to find out about the Pasha Zord. And so we have the green, the gold, and the black that are to find Void Knight and start attacking him. And we have the red, blue, and pink Rangers that are to go into the Dino Fury Megazord Blade formation, which is like, okay, this is something new. So, to me anyways, from my memory. So, we have the Pacha Smash Sword that comes out, and so Javi goes into his blazing armor and is to a blazing fury blast, and so Void Knight, it's like, well, hey, like, I don't give a crap about any of that. Like, I'm just gonna go on and get my intel and get out of here. So while the Rangers are just like, well, hey, like, I'm sure whatever this gadget is to be really important to you, isn't it, Void Knight? And Void Knight's like, no, don't go after that. So we have the Pacha Mega Smash, and we have uh, Izzy, who is to try to get to the Sporex before Mucus does. And so then we end up getting to the Void Queen that is to be kind of doing some intel on Void Knight and be like, well, hey, like it seems like you're really working well with all these Sporex beasts. And Void Knight's like, well, yeah, like it seems like you've also been eyeing what I've been doing. So we have the Void Queen that is to talk to Void Knight of like, well, hey, like, shouldn't we go on and get our revenge? And Void Knight's like, a revenge? And Void Knight just wants to go on and have like the Void Queen kind of rule over Earth. Like that seems to be like the Grandmaster plan. So we now are to go on and have the Rangers who are, or Izzy and Fern that are to go on and go to their prom. So Carlos is trying to hide the camera because like Izzy doesn't like to have her photo being taken. But so we have Javi that is to bring this limo, and Izzy's so excited about that. And so Carlos is like, well, hey, like, I want to take some pictures. Let's just take some pictures and just kind of get this over with. So, speaking of prom, like, who, of course, was to not go to their prom, or who did go to their prom? Some people might have gone on with dates, or friends, or whichever. I went to my prom, even though I didn't go on with a date. Funny enough, I was to have taken pictures with a bunch of girls who I all knew. Really, every one of them, I'm sure. So, but it was a true story. A lot of girls went and did a picture with me. I was like, okay, this is cool. All right. So we then had me go on and kind of meet a girl that I knew in one of my classes, and we just kind of danced the rest of the night. I was like, okay, this is cool. But then, like, afterwards, when I was to go on and need to, like, exit the prom, yeah, that went horrible. Because, of course, I was to get, like, a ride from my family, and that went horrible. But, hey, like, at least I went to a prom, right? Because some people didn't do that at all. Some people didn't have the money for it and whatever. So, yeah, at least I got to do that. So, we have Izzy who is talking about, like, well, hey, like, the Rangers, like, I'm sure would be so excited to see me in a limo. And it's like, well, hey, the Rangers are here. They're going to ruin your whole special moment. So we then have all the Rangers who are going on and taking pictures, and we of course have Carlos at his state like, hey, like, best dad ever, and everyone laughs, and that's the way the episode ends. So with that said, I'm gonna hurry up and try to get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, buddy.